Greetings, students, and welcome to another fun-filled day here at
Horror in the Halls.
What's up, kids, and welcome to Horror in the Halls. I'm Bob, aka Mr. Holland.
And I'm Jenny, aka Mrs. Hill.
And we're just two high school teachers educating the masses on the spooky stuff we love. And as all teachers know, May sucks. With all the state testing, finals, the student apathy, they're done, we're done. May is horrible. So in honor of all of that, the lesson plan for May is Hell Month. And in this week's lesson, there is such stuff as dreams are made of. This is 1985's Legend.
Yes.
So, yeah, Legend is solid. Solid pick, I think, for hellish kind of world. Different take on hell, but again, all the same. You know, not as much horror, but definitely has the horror aspect to it. And, of course, Big D is probably one of the best, the second best portrayal of the devil, in my opinion.
I will say, as a child, I was very creeped out at parts of that movie. So.
Yeah, all of the parts in his little lair. And the version we got is you see him up close. He's all glowing and shit. That's what nightmares are made out of.
Right.
For sure.
And all the creepy dudes, like the big, ginormous dudes in the
giants,
fire pits. I'm like,
yeah,
it's terrible.
I love those dudes, man. It was great. Now, I think, and we'll get into the cast. I love this portrayal of this demon, I'm not quite sure if he's supposed to be Satan or just like another demon spawn of Satan, because he says father a lot and he has a response back. So I'm like, that would be weird if it was like.
It's almost like he was like, that was his domain, but that wasn't Satan. That's how I kind of took it. When I was little, I thought he was Satan because I was little.
That's what he's described as. When they say it's Big D, they call him like it's darkness or Satan or like evil and all these things. But he's like the Lord of Darkness. So it's like, okay,
yeah.
What?
Well, but now watching as an adult, I feel like he's more so like a caretaker in a certain area.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can see that.
That's how I kind of took it as, hearing him say father a lot. That's kind of how I took it. But as a kid, he was Satan.
No. Well, yeah, because especially when you're a kid growing up in church and stuff, our idea of what Satan is Big D.
Yeah.
Like if I close my eyes, that's the devil. And it's gone so far as like Tenacious D had a very similar character in their video.
Yeah.
South Park has a very similar version of the devil. They're all kind of stolen from Big D. I mean, 100%. It's him. It's an amazing makeup, and we'll get to that in a moment. So let's get through the deets real quick, and then we can continue on. So Legend was released in 1985. It originally came out in August 28th, 1985 in the European market. So it was released in France. We didn't get it here in the States until April 18th, 1986. Our version is actually the shortest. It's 89 minutes, 91 with the credits. That's the American version because there's 3 versions of this film. The international version is 93 minutes. So it's a little bit longer. That's not including credits. So there's a little more extra stuff done to it. And then, of course, there's a director's cut that's 114 minutes. And there's a big debate over which one is better. And as we were talking about beforehand, I think a lot of it is just the one you grew up with. For us to watch the international one is kind of weird because the music's totally different. There's a lot of differences in it, really, and how it's cut, how the action is portrayed, how the relationship between Lily and Jack are portrayed is a lot different. So it'd be interesting to see them both in a comparison situation.
It's been a while since I watched it, but I did not like it.
And I want to find the director's cut. Just watch that one. I always try to find the director's cut of anything, just because, as a person who has directed films, I feel like what the director wants in their brain is usually when you see a director's cut, you get more of that, right? I don't like things that are edited for. Oh, it's edited for this audience because, I don't consider myself a typical film watcher. I'm more of I appreciate more about the film, so I want to see what the director was trying to do. And speaking of directors, this is directed by Ridley M.F. and Scott. So it's like huge at the time. For those of you that don't know anything about movies at all, apparently, he's pretty notable for a lot of stuff. Like Alien and Blade Runner, Black Rain, Thelma and Louise. My man did G.I. Jane. He did Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, Kingdom of Heaven, American Gangster. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, the dude has done so many things. Of course, then Prometheus. He did The Martian, which is stellar. Alien Covenant. He's done some things that aren't great too. A lot of things that aren't great too, like Exodus, Gods and Kings. Not great. That new Robin Hood, Russell Crowe was kind of meh. So he's done some stuff that wasn't great, some things that were great all around. Just has made his mark on the world of film, I think.
Yeah, when it's his movies for sure.
Yeah, it's got like a aesthetic.
Yeah.
And this has it, which I think is funny. Slow. Yeah, they're very slow. But they're good. Shut up. They're growing for great shots.
I'm just saying that he goes for a very dramatic effect, but in order to do that, make it successful, his movies are long.
Yeah. Oh, the original cut of this movie was 2.5 hours.
It makes sense.
And there was a bunch of it. I don't think anyone has seen that version, not the 2.5 hour one. No, because he originally he played it for some people.
The other one.
Yeah, the 114-minute one is the longest one that's ever been released. But apparently the original cut, like when he first put this at a test screen, it was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, it's too long.
And there were like some stoner dudes in the ring. They were like heckling it and stuff. And he decided he should change it based on their comments. Yeah, but it was super long. But, it's a great story. I ain't gonna lie, I would kind of like to see a 2.5 hour long version of this if it added more to it. Because I love the world, right? I like the lore behind it. And I like that it's not based on anything necessarily known, right? It's not it's not jumping out at you. It's not like a book that's already told. It's not like a Lord of the Rings kind of situation. It's not some lore that was there. He found a guy whose writing he liked. It's William Hortzberg. I can't say his name. Sorry. And he had written a book called Fallen Angel, which was made into a movie called Angel Heart, Robert De Niro in it. It's a good movie. It's a solid book. But apparently he had read some of his stuff and sought him out to write the screenplay. And he just happened to already be working on a fairy tale. So it kind of was like, Providence sort of. He knew it, and he's all right, cool. And he had done a couple things for TV, nothing really serious. But he's mostly a writer of novels. This is not something that he did. I think he's only written 3 screenplays based on what I can find.
Okay.
And this was his last one. Yeah, last one. He was a novel writer. And I think that's why you get some of the pacing you get, too, is that you have more, in a book, you have more of you throwing your own ideas in there versus us just throwing what we want into it and having to see it, right?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. Let's see. Got great cinematographer, I think. Alex Thompson always kills it. He does a good job, I think, on almost everything he's ever done. It's the same guy that did the original Excalibur, which was great. He was nominated for Best Cinematography on multiple awards. He did, let's see, Legend. He did Raw Deal. He did Labyrinth, of course. If you pay attention, it kind of looks very labyrinthy. Like you could almost put Labyrinth and this movie in the same world and be fine with it, I think. Just of how they look.
Yeah, that was in like my little group of movies that I always like watched as a kid was Legend and Labyrinth and
all that like fairy tale kind of like young girl, older, more powerful guy. Yeah, situations. It happens. Especially because getting to the cast, Mia Sara was only 17 when she did this movie. Like she was a child. It was her first movie. So let's get into a couple more things here. Again, the effects are great in this movie. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The budget, though, unfortunately, this budget was $24.5 million, which is kind of a lot for 1985, 85. It only box office worldwide $23.5 million. Like it bombed in Europe. It bombed here.
I don't understand. It was so good.
Well, think about what came out. Tom Cruise's very next movie after this. And this gives you like a kind of a thermometer into what people wanted at the time. Tom Cruise was known when this came out. But he wasn't a huge star until his next movie, which is Top Gun, which came out essentially the same year in America. Top Gun's from 86 as well. We didn't get Legend here until 86.
Okay.
So that's the kind of movie people wanted, right? Iron Eagle, Top Gun, those Cold War, Russians are the bad guys movie. We didn't want fantasy anymore in the 80s. Most fantasy was relegated to like straight to video. Crap like Beastmaster, things like that. Even Conan, which is a huge film to the people like me who like it, it wasn't like this huge box office success, and it had Arnold in it.
Yeah.
So it's like at the time you're taking an unknown story. There was nothing to back it onto. Just like today, you released a original story today, I'd lose my mind. No one does original crap. Not about fairy tales.
No. They're just remaking all the Disney movies.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm like,
so like
make
this is
something else.
essentially generally seen as the film that ended the giant fantasy movies until Lord of the Rings. Like the big budget fantasy films, this is one of the last ones to be released.
Oh, it's so lame.
Until 2001, right? We kind of shifted gears back to action took over. In the late 80s and 90s, action movies were it, right?
Yeah.
Your budget went to we went from, this guy doing amazing stuff to Jerry Bruckheimer blowing crap up. I mean, that's what we kind of went to. And that's what happened in the 80s, right? This has a huge budget, amazing effects, beautiful cinematography. Both scores I think are good for what they are. But then people didn't want to see that, right? We wanted to see stuff blowing up and Tom Cruise flying fighter planes upside down because Top Gun is considered one of the most critically successful films of all time.
Ugh.
And it came out the same year in America.
I don't mind it. It's not like a favorite or nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty all right.
I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to choose to watch that movie. So.
Yeah. He kind of screwed himself, really. And of course, it's Jerry Bruckheimer, which is hilarious that I just said that. I didn't even realize they were the same. So just to give you an idea, Top Gun, which is Top Cruise, came out in, came out in May in the United States, right? So it came out almost right after Legend came out, both starring Tom Cruise. Top Gun had a budget of $15 million. Guess what the box office is for Top Gun?
It's a stupid amount, I'm sure.
$357 million in 86, right? So if you were a person giving money to movies, I'd stop giving them to fantasy films too. I'd be like, sorry, man, you obviously you can't keep up, right? If your job is to make money and you see that you can spend 10 million less and make 340 million more, you know what I mean? Like, so the shift went from that. This is a huge budgeted film for what it is. Of course, we all spoke about how much a pain in the ass Pinewood Studios is. It was shot at Pinewood with Ridley Scott. In our Aliens episode, we talked about how loyal they were to him, but they're also very particular about how they work, right? And this is post-Aliens, I think. So they're, caught probably just being uppities. Anyway, it does have a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's pretty good. 73% audience. I kind of expected the critic score to be a lot lower for as much hate as this movie gets.
It's just, I don't know. I just really like it. There's a lot of good in this movie, so.
Oh, there's a lot of great in this movie. Like, it's great. Yeah. There's some scenes in this movie that are great. The way it's shot is amazing. Like I said, it looks very dreamlike. That's actually one of my notes. Like, watching Legend is like remembering a dream. It's got great visuals, but very little context. And that's what kind of hurts it a little bit. Because you don't always understand what's going on, and then things just kind of happen. It's like, what? Oh, okay.
Well, it's kind of like they just dropped you in the middle of a story. They didn't like it. It wasn't. It wasn't like a start to finish. Like, it dropped you in the middle of the action, is what it did.
Yeah, you get the middle of a story to the end.
Yeah,
but no beginning, and even some of that middle is disjointed. And that's why I kind of would like to compare the director's cut to the American version to see if some of the shifts draw it together more or give you more character development.
From what I remember,
I don't know. There's not a lot of it.
It still drops you in the middle.
Yeah. So let's get here. The plot of this movie is there may never be another dawn. It's set in a timeless, mythical forest inhabited by fairies, goblins, unicorns, and mortals. This fantastic story follows a mystical forest dweller chosen by fate to undertake a heroic quest. So yes, very typical fairy tale fare there. Princess, which they don't call her the princess in the American version. They just call her a lady, but in the British version, she is a princess. And she kind of just does
Darkness
her own thing.
Does call her a princess.
Darkness does, yes. But like the lady she speaks to at the very beginning just says she needs to act like a lady like she is not. But in the British version, she calls her the princess.
Okay.
which is a little bit different. So, of course, our cast here, we got Tom Cruise as Jack of the Green, a green man of the forest. That's another weird plot thing that they changed in the original version. Mia Sara in her debut film as Princess Lily. You may recognize her from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. The ever awesome Tim Curry as the Lord of Darkness. He's the best part of this whole movie. David Bennett as Honeythorn Gump. He's an elf and guardian of the forest. It's weird. He looks like that dude from Malcolm in the Middle. Like, I was like, is that the dude from Malcolm in the Middle? Aaron was like, he's not that old. And I was like, okay, it looks just like him. Alice Playton as Blix.
He's not that old.
The leader of the darkness, the Goblin Minions. Blix is also the Gump's voice because David Bennett apparently was very German. And they didn't like it.
Gotcha.
Billy Barty is Screwball. Billy Barty's awesome. Cork Herbert is Brown Tom, which is also awesome. Peter O'Farrell is Pox. You got Annabelle Lanyon as Una. She was pretty cool. Kyrian Sara as Blunder. And Robert Picardo from Star Trek fame as Meg Mucklebones.
That still makes me laugh.
Who Jenny affectionately dubbed, what'd you call her?
Oh, Greasy.
Oh, Greasy.
So, just a backstory on that is I ran a D&D campaign for a while, and there was a sea hag that would pop up as like a merchant occasionally, and she would sell goods. But she would be like, all of a sudden she'd be there, and her name was Old Greasy.
That's
hilarious. But this is how I imagine her looking.
It was pretty spot on because that's my first thought when she popped out. I was like, oh my God, it's Old Greasy. I really thought that, which is hilarious. I couldn't remember what you called her, but I was like, oh, that's the sea hag that Jenny was talking about because she looks just like a sea hag. I feel like Wizards of the Coast just said, hey, put that shit in D&D because it looks, the sea hag picture you see in like the Dungeon Master's Guide, the monster manual, looks very similar to old Meg Mucklebones. There's about to be a sea hag on my next campaign, and I'm about to steal some shit from Legend.
Just nasty
KY grossness.
Yeah.
Because you know that's what it is, dude.
Oh, gross.
I think it's great that that's Robert Picardo, though. Like the doctor from Star Trek Voyager. He's just like that character.
I had no idea that was who that was.
Which is kind of a big name. That's one thing I was telling you about beforehand. In your international version is there's more with Meg Mucklebones because that is a heck of a makeup to show for 5 seconds and then be done, right? Because like the ones who get the good makeup, like Blix is amazing, Big D's amazing. Which funny story, a little fun fact: Blix told the makeup designer to make that look like, oh my God, my mind went blank. The dude from the Rolling Stones. What's the guy that Johnny Depp's based on? Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow's based on.
I can't remember.
Richardson. Crap. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot this. Hold on. I even wrote it down. It's in my brain. He looks older. Everybody thinks he should have died 1,000 years ago. Keith Richards. God bless America. I think it's funny that in the 80s, we thought Keith Richards looked that haggard, and he looks exactly the same now. But that's who Meg Mucklebones is. Blix's makeup is based on. Is Keith Richards.
Oh my gosh, that's so terrible and funny.
I forgot that freaking name. If you look at the face, like side by side, like the way the wrinkles and stuff when she moves her mouth, it 100% is like, oh, that's hilarious. Like knowing that before going into it, you could see it immediately. That was Keith Richards.
That's funny.
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was pretty good.
I like that Screwball was also in Willow.
I know, right? As almost the exact same character.
Right.
He has an iconic voice, though. He really does. Like, I knew his voice immediately. I'm like, oh, yep, that's him. And he's in so many things in that time. Dude's been acting since 1930.
Dang, that's a long time.
His last, film role he did was in, 2001, which is crazy. That dude was in so many things. As he should have been, because he's great.
He is.
In the 70s version of Lord of the Rings, he's Bilbo and Samwise.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and the rotoscope version of it, he is the body character for those, which is kind of cool, I think.
I really liked Una's character a lot because she's what I envision a fairy to look like. Because they always make fairies look very beautiful and serene looking, and fairies to me are supposed to be more kind of ethereal and
crazy looking.
They should look very, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they're supposed to almost be vicious looking. They're not supposed to be some pretty little thing.
Kind of wild. Ethereal and wild.
Yeah, and I think that they really were successful in making that fairy look that way
Or
because she
untamed.
looked crazy.
I know, with her hair all out and the contacts made her eyes look kind of wild. I did like
Yeah.
that about her and how mad she got. And then they were all like, oh, fairy magic. They were all ridiculous, which I thought was kind
Yeah.
of funny. Which to your guys are like dwarves. What? Yeah. But it's funny because, and this is one of the differences I like, excuse me, about the European version or the director's cut better, is that Jack goes off by himself, not with Lily. Because if you know anything about, and there's like a bunch of Green Man motif all time, Jack is immortal. He's of the forest. He can never be with Lily. He's a Green Man. He's not a person. You know what I mean? Like that's why he's able to see them and be with them, because he is of the forest. So it's like he's like the forest guardian. So he shouldn't be able to leave with her like this happily ever after. Like, don't forget us,
Well, he
Jack.
calls himself a human in the movie.
Yeah, but he's not. I think he just doesn't
Okay.
know. But you look at but a lot of that is just how he's named too, though. But like Jack O the Green, he's green. He's a green man, which like you see like the walls and stuff, and you kind of know him from some Arthurian legends and stuff. But usually they're completely covered in like a green leaves. They belong of the forest, and they're typically immortal guardians. They're kind of what Link is based on. Like a lot of people think the Legend of Zelda is based on this movie, which the original plot of Zelda is very similar to Legend.
I don't like that because I don't think Zelda is as lame as Lily.
I know, but Zelda doesn't do shit in the first game. She's just there. Your whole purpose is to go save her from a big demon guy.
I know, but eventually, like, I don't know. I don't envision Zelda to be this incredibly lame.
She was awesome.
Lily is the worst. She calls the most. I called her Eve the whole time.
Oh, she's definitely Eve.
I was like, you are the worst.
Definitely Brie.
I don't know. Anyways, but I think she did a good job at being helpless. She's only helpful at the end, somewhat.
She also is kind of like responsible for everything.
Oh, she is definitely responsible for everything. This whole movie, the whole plot of this movie is her fault.
Yeah, so. I know, and that's another thing in the longer version.
Well, actually, it's Jack's too, because he shouldn't have showed her the unicorns.
Well, he loved her. He was trying to show her, you try to take your lady to someplace nice, and then there's a scene though, and they added, it's not in the American version, where when he says "Don't go it," they're sacred. She looks at him, and she has a straight look of defiance, and then he's like, "What have you done?" And she yells out, "I don't care." So really, it is her own like. It is very Eve-like in her choice to sin or whatever. So I mean, obviously, you're dealing with angels and demons and whatnots, and very biblical kind of view of things. But she very much is Eve in this take. Like you touch the sacred fruit, you brought on the end of the beautifulness,
right?
And
she sucks.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be more about like human folly and the things and decisions that we make that are wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think you get a little bit more of that with the international version, looking at more into character depth. I think we lose in the American version because it's more about action and them kissing and stuff, which doesn't even happen until the very end. All those are cuts from that last scene. So it's like, okay. But it's a great story nonetheless. And again, the makeup in this movie is stellar. Yeah. I mean, just beyond stellar. But it suffered from a lot of issues, right? Like I said, Tom Cruise didn't like the American cut of the movie, so he wouldn't even promote it really in America. Filming was interrupted twice. First time, they were shooting this in the 007 studio at Pinewood. It burned to the ground. So that forest, the forest you see, was totally built inside the 007 studio. It was a huge lot. And it halfway through filming, I think it's like 16 weeks in, it burned to the ground.
That's terrible.
And then Tom Cruise's father died in the middle of this, so he had to leave to go deal with that and come back. So they had to pause twice. Of course, it was falsely rumored to be the source of Legend of Zelda, but it's pretty damn close. But whatever. Whatever. But yeah, they
Whatever.
What do we say? Let's see here. Huh.
So hold on. So who's the? Oh my gosh! Why it's not? I'm not gonna remember her name. The little fairy that helps Link out through like all the games.
Oh my god! If her name is Ula, I'm gonna like ripped it. Una. Let's see.
No, I don't think so. Where's Johnny Hill when you need him?
I know, right?
This is his favorite.
I don't know. I think it's just
He'd be like,
Felicia.
he's yelling at me right now from listening to this. Oh my God, why are you know who this is? I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry.
Talking about Felicia? It's in Link's Awakening. In Link's Awakening, according to the Googles, her name's Felicia.
Are you sure? That does not sound right.
That's what came up. Felicia is Link's fairy companion in The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the manga.
Oh, what's the manga?
Navi is another one.
Navi, that's who it is.
Yeah. But that didn't come around until 1998.
Well, anyways, he's yelling at me right now. So
Luna and Navi. Pretty close. It's pretty close.
I'm like, what? That's who that is. It's fine.
Yeah, apparently Ridley Scott drew inspiration from Beauty and the Beast, Tristan and Isolde, and of course Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Fantasia, and Bambi, obviously, because Fantasia is very similar to that's where Big D's inspiration came from. Especially that new scene they added for only the American cut, where him having black skin and glowing eyes. It's very much taken from Fantasia, and the weird glowing nails.
Yes,
I hate that scene though. I'd like it better not seeing him. I think.
I don't know why he was neon.
I don't either. It doesn't make any sense. Especially because the next scene, in the original cut, when he talks to Blix, you see his hand. In the claw, they left that in. But you were just glowing before that, my man. Why are you not glowing now?
Yeah, I didn't like that part.
No. Well, it's not in the original movie.
Well, it made it look cheesy.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was not necessary.
If his nails weren't glowing, I wouldn't have hated the eyes glowing because he's supposed to be like this darkness creature, and that's fine, whatever, it's the 80s. But in the original cut, you just hear his voice and you see his hand, but you don't actually see all of Big D in Ridley Scott fashion until like an hour in. When he walks out of the mirror and confronts Lily towards the end, in Ridley Scott's original version, that's the first time you see all of Big D.
My gosh.
Just like an Alien, how you never see the alien.
I told Johnny when I was watching it, when he like runs at Jack
with his
and
horns
it's like
down
in slow motion.
Yeah.
And he's like crouched like he's about to pounce on him. I'm like, I said, I would have either just had a heart attack and died or I don't know. Because that was so scary. I was like, oh my God, he's coming.
Yeah, we're about to die. It looks cool though.
It does. They did a good job on his character.
Apparently you don't see his whole face until 1 hour and 3 minutes into the film.
Okay.
And he apparently cast Tim Curry after watching Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Because he's awesome.
I know.
It doesn't matter what Tim Curry was ever in. He did a good job.
It's true. Also, apparently, so Rob Bottin made most of the costumes in this movie, which he's a pretty stellar special effects guy. When they first put those fiberglass horns on, they weighed like 30-something pounds.
Dang. I mean, they look heavy.
Yeah, they had to keep... Apparently, though, they kept working on them and making them lighter and lighter until, Ridley Scott commented that it was almost kind of creepy how light they were. Because at the very end, they weighed, almost nothing. But apparently, Ridley Scott felt both... He felt sorry and horrified for Curry and immediately tried to find an easier way to do the makeup. Because he'd have to spend 8 hours every single day getting makeup put on him.
Yeah, I can see that.
And eventually,
it was really great. They did such a good job.
But when he first got them on, those were not hollow. That's what I'm saying. He eventually hollowed them out. But do you imagine that? 8 hours in a chair, and then they strap a 30-pound headpiece on your neck?
No.
Figure it out, bro. But Ridley Scott was worried about his back. And he got too patient, and he basically ripped the makeup off too quickly and tore his own skin in the process because he was tired of being in it. So they had to change all of his makeup. So it was pretty wild. So they shot around him for a week while his skin healed up, which is crazy.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, the amount of time spent in a chair putting makeup on. I know a lot of them still do that. It just, depending on what characters are playing, makeup is a big deal. And it does take a long time for it to look good. But oh my gosh. That's probably one of the best special effects makeup I've ever seen.
It's a really good one. Well, all of them in this movie are great, right? That's what's so weird about
favorite, though.
Meg Mucklebones. That's a huge prosthetic.
Yeah,
that's all prosthetic makeup, and they use it for almost nothing. Now, his is great. I love it. That's why they were able to use that glow scene, is that they already had that shot. So because he had to shoot around him, apparently he liked that it built suspense for the character, so that's why he chose not to show him till later on, just like the alien, which I think would be better if you just have the disembodied. You see the big demon version or the ghost version of him with those goblins, and you see his hands, you hear his voice. It's disembodied, right? And then you see this big like reveal. I hate that he's sitting in this chair glowing. I think that's kind of a cheesy way to be introduced to him, honestly. Because in the original one, it just shows space and him talking over it. But he does give you a cool montage into what he's sad, looking for love. So I guess that's okay. There's a lot of fun things in this movie that I really like. You want to get to the rubric, or you got anything else you want to add about the main film?
No, we can get to the rubric because there's parts about that I like that are going to be had to be said in the rubric part anyway.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I was trying to think maybe we should jump to that. All right, guys. So we're going to get to the rubric on this one. So we'll start with the literary element, the script, story development, dialogue, and character development. This is usually a you world. What'd you think, script writer? I have some thoughts, but I wanted to hear what you had to say first.
The literary element, I think it was well done. I don't think it was like perfectly done or anything. I think there needed to be a little bit more explaining on the characters of Jack and Lily and how they were so close. Like it just didn't seem very like you don't feel the when you write a fairy tale, you typically you make it to where the people feel for the characters when something goes wrong, and I didn't feel that way in this one. I was more mad at both of them because I felt like they were just ridiculously selfish.
Yeah, and it's very sudden too, like you said earlier, like thrown into the middle of a story.
Yeah, you were thrown in. You don't get an introductory part where it's just her. Immediately, it's her in the middle of a really beautiful forest, and you're just supposed to know who Nell is, and you're supposed to know who Lily is and Jack. And she talks about Jack, and you're like, "Who the hell is Jack?" Because you haven't seen Jack yet, and we don't know. They gave us that
dumb crawl at the beginning, but that was added for Americans too, because British people think we're stupid.
I think that hurt it a little bit. I like the goblin characters a whole lot and the fairies. Yeah. Like all the mythical ones kind of made sense to me. I felt like they were more like developed because you kind of get that.
Are they developed or is it just that we know more about their lore? I don't feel like any character is fully fleshed out in this story.
I don't know. Blix is pretty fleshed out. I wouldn't say Pox and Blunder are, but I know who Blix is from the get-go.
I'm talking about like the Gump and stuff. They're all just there. Yeah, but we only know because Big D calls him to him and says, "You're my most evil goblin."
Exactly.
It's just random.
So you have more backstory on him a little bit based on that.
Okay, so we got one. The other two are just there. Jack doesn't get built up a lot at all. He's just there. You don't know he's really a green man.
Jack doesn't have a story.
No, they don't even call him Jacko the Green until the credits. So he's just like a dude. Like you're like, does this kid like live in the woods? Is this like Tarzan? Is this the Jungle Book? Is he Peter Pan? What's going on? And the Gump they just show up out of nowhere, and then they're drinking elderberry wine for random reasons, and he's mad at him and then happy. Part. It's just strange.
I just feel like it's a little. It was rushed in parts.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I can't say that the other version that I watched was that much different. It still drops you in the middle of a story.
Yeah.
It's not there. You don't get a whole lot more writing in it. It's just you get a little bit more scenes, but it doesn't mean the writing's any better.
And you get a little bit more character development, I think, but it's very slight.
No, not really.
Well, I think with some of the additions of Jack being more reluctant to use violence as he doesn't know violence. Whereas this one, he's not reluctant at all. He says, I don't know what that is. You'll learn. All of a sudden, I'm a hero. I like that. Lily being a little bit more headstrong and kind of defiant is, I think, more fitting to that character because you're like, why the hell did you do that? And all of a sudden, she's just like knelt down. Plus, there's a apparently there's a more Snow White vibe because there's 3 songs that Lily's character actually sings in the extended version, and she's singing to the unicorn when it walks up to her instead of just looking at her over some weird synth music. I don't know. I don't hate it. I do think it could have been fleshed out a little bit more. I would like to. That's why I'd like to see like the 2 hour long version. Like, did you flesh out so much more of this story that we just don't get because you cut an hour of film away, essentially? I'd like to see that. So I'm thinking like a 15. I can't give it a 20. I think the main characters are not developed at all. Their dialogue, there's some great dialogue though. Big D has great dialogue, and that's why I do think
there is very fitting dialogue to some of the characters. Yes,
some, yeah. So what do you think? I was thinking 15. I don't think it quite hits 20. A lot of it is just liking the thing, but the story development is kind of slow, but it's very Ridley Scott. It drops you in the middle, like you said. Who is this person? And that's why I like the little throwaway line of princess or act like a lady. It doesn't really matter what she is. She's just a person. Then you have like the damn fairies comment from the lady at the beginning. You're just like, what? Like, why are you running through the woods and dropping this lady's clothesline if you like love her? And then you're stealing her food. Like, what? This is weird. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't really like Lily's character anyway, so
yeah.
I don't even know if I'd give it a 15, to be honest with you, but I mean,
really, do you think 10?
I think it's more of a 10.
Okay.
I love this movie, but I don't love the.
You don't gotta justify your decisions, though.
I don't love the characters of Jack and Lily at all.
Yeah, so you're the English teacher, so I trust you on this part. All right, so 10 for literary. If you get mad, get over it. You know this movie is not great, but it's also great. So it's one of those kind of things.
Like of course I would go back and watch this. You know, it's not
I just
like
did. I was stoked to watch it again.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't matter the writing isn't the greatest. I still love it.
Yeah, well, because I'm not watching it for the writing. I'm watching it for Big D, if I'm being honest. I'm watching the whole thing for the bad guys because that's where the good makeup is. That's where the good story is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to say about story-wise, that is the one thing I like about the addition in the American version. I don't like the way he looks all glowing, but that monologue he gives about being lonely and speaking to his parents and like, why am I like this? I kind of like that because it gives you more depth into why he goes and takes Lily. Because you immediately understand why he wants to kill the unicorns, but why does he give crap about this girl? You know, so you kind of get that the little monologue at the beginning gives you a little bit more insight into the fact that he's just lonely. He just kind of wants, even though he's evil, he can still be lonely. So this movie's all about like you have to have that balance. So there's no one that's purely evil and purely good. They're all finding that balance, which I kind of liked. So while I agree with 10, I do like that addition. I think it makes Big D's character more developed. You know, in the original script, he like rapes her. So I'm glad that got cut out. The original script is really brutal. Like they're like licking each other's bodies and stuff. It's weird. Like it's a strange addition. I'm glad it's not there.
Well, it would have ceased to have been what the movie was intended.
Yeah, 100%.
It would have been something totally different. It should if they were going to do that, they should just made it a horror movie.
100%.
Like legit.
D should have gored him in the chest. That'd been sweet. All right. Speaking of that, the effects design elements, so visual effects elements that connect to the narrative, set designs, overall character design, gore, and practical versus digital effects. This movie is almost all practical effects, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was really great. Makeup wise, this is, like you said earlier, it's one of the best practical effects of makeup in any movie. All the creatures look awesome.
Yeah.
Other than that one pig goblin, he looks kind of goofy, but it's very Jim Henson quality. You know, they very much reminded me of the goblins in Labyrinth a little bit, which I thought was fine.
Yeah.
Especially that one that's really a dwarf inside that big goofy helmet. He had a very, very Jim Henson Labyrinth kind of vibe, but I think Jim Henson was involved with this, if I'm not mistaken. So it makes sense.
I just like that they really stayed true to what each like type of character is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Like I know that they're dwarves, I know that they're fairies. I can differentiate between the different ones. And then the goblins all looked just rancid looking and dirty. And obviously darkness looks awesome. But yeah. And I even like at the point where when Lily like her descent almost into darkness because she starts off very innocent looking and very pretty, and then at one point when she's taken, she looks very like haggard and disheveled because she's, you know, trying to escape, and then eventually she just looks like one of them.
Yeah, she
She's
looks
really
awesome.
dark and regal, which that scene actually always creeped me out, where she dances with that like creepy black figure that's kind of veiled,
Yeah.
and then she just turns into it, which I was like, that's pretty cool.
See, I think most of that's added for the American version. I don't think that's in the British version.
I still like that. I think that's really cool.
I think it's awesome. And like the dinner scene, those additions I think are good because it draws that out more. And like I said, it just looks good, right? So
Yeah.
the effects for this film, since we're talking about effects, was mostly done by Rob Bottin. He did the special effects makeup for The Howling, and he wanted him to work on Blade Runner, but he was already working on The Thing at the time. So by the time The Thing wrapped, he had gotten him the script because he really wanted him, and apparently he was like, "Oh, so I get to create makeups for starring roles," and that's why he did this movie, and he did a really successful job because regardless of what you say about The Thing, which again, previous episodes, I don't hate The Thing, it's just not as good as Alien. The Thing makeup is rad, right? So that dude did a stellar job. Like Big D, he's probably one of the most iconic fantasy characters ever. Most
Yeah.
people know immediately who it is when you show it to them. Just a quick, oh, look at this. Oh, dang, that's Big D. Exactly. Because he's iconic. Even for kids that are the kids we teach now, some of them know Legend solely based on this makeup.
Yeah, it's very I don't know.
It's iconic.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Obviously,
Iconic.
as like, and of course, it's based on the Disney character from Fantasia, 100%. But if you look at post this movie, like I said, Tenacious D has run with this idea, this big, like, goat legged, red, giant horns, South Park, all these other portrayals of the devil. And for me, really, it's the second best portrayal of the devil of any movie. I think Peter Stormare takes the cake, though, in Constantine, 100%. That dripping black ooze, he is the devil to me forever. I hope he does that movie again. They should cast him 100 times to
Oh,
be the
Johnny
devil.
loves that.
It's the best, dude. Like, he had all those tattoos just to
Yeah.
have them. Because, from a biblical standpoint, the devil is an angel, so he shouldn't be a big red demon. Like, he should be a person.
No.
So
Well,
I
that's what
really
I'm
like
saying.
that.
That's why I think looking back at Legend now as an adult, I don't think he was Satan.
No, Peter Stormare's his dad, which would be perfect. Those voices. God. And of course, I think another good nod to Ridley Scott is the choice to pick Tim Curry to play that was genius, really, because there was a bunch of people up to play Jack, like Johnny Depp, Jim Carrey, and Robbie Downey Jr. all were considered for Jack, but Tim Curry was the only person considered for Big D. Which I think
he did such a great job.
Well, because
his voice is very demanding in this movie, and like you want to sit and listen to him.
He's one of those actors like Hugo Weaving that he can just use his voice, and there's so much character building just in his tone of voice, right? Like if you watch movies like V for Vendetta, for instance, how you can get every emotion Hugo Weaving's character has with just tone of voice, well, you can never actually see his face, which I think is a big thing. Like this one, you get Tim Curry's mouth moving, but he didn't get to emote with his face because there's so much makeup. Like the brows, which is a lot of emotion, comes from how we move our eyes and stuff. He doesn't have that. So to be able to portray so much in just sadness and hate for the light and desire and all of this just in tone of voice, I think Tim Curry, no one else could have done this movie any justice.
No.
100%. And that's not even talking about the sets. The whole forest with the snow was awesome. It was built amazing. It's all built inside of a studio, which is crazy. And I'm a fan. I think this is a solid 25 for me.
Yeah, it is. Even the sets were great, like you said.
Yeah, the houses look period. It looks like a fairy tale cottage, like where the lady lives at the beginning. I liked the regalness of where Big D lived, right? Because if you think about the backstory a little bit, at one point in time, he ruled the mortal world. Like he was darkness on earth, right? And it has that very biblical, before the Lord said, let there be light, there was darkness, and he has that kind of vibe. Like I was in charge of this plane before the magic came into the world, right? And you see the opulence around the great tree, right? All those like statues built to him and all these things that had fallen to ruin since the time of light had come.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool. And it visually told a bit of backstory that narratively we don't really get, which I thought was really neat.
Agreed.
Cool beans. All right, so 25 on that one. We'll move on to the visual technical element. The overall aesthetic of the film is pleasing to the eye. Lighting, creative camera shots, and movement and lens selection. I can saw you shaking your head already, but yeah, it has a feel to it, like all Ridley Scott, like all movies of that era. It feels like Labyrinth, that kind of whimsical, almost haze over the camera film the whole time, and it's not there, but it just feels like it's there, right? Like you're definitely not in. And that's what I hate about HD cinema, is that it feels like you're there. I don't want to feel like I'm there. I want to feel like I'm in another world watching a movie. And that's how Legend feels to me. Like you were in this world, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. I don't know, I liked the close-ups, like when they would find things, or the close-ups of just the characters' faces.
Yeah, those
'Cause it
cuts.
lets you kind of get to know their faces a lot more, like the Una's character, like, you get to see her whole body, but you get really close to her face at times, and then, like, there was times where, like, the shining of, like, the reflection of, like, something shining, like, the light shining off of it and, like, all over their face, I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool, and then, like, the end with when they're getting ready to defeat darkness, and he's, like, getting ready to be, like, shot off into, like, almost like space.
Yeah.
It's like everything behind him is black, but, like, everything in front of him is just white. So,
Yeah.
like, oh, that was really cool.
Well, they use
But
light
yeah.
as like the champion the whole time, right? I thought it was really cool.
Mhm.
I did really like that. I forgot to add something too on the effects design element. Jack's whole armor is made out of bottle caps that they flattened into armor, which is
That's
kind of
fine.
cool. I don't understand why he
Yeah.
never has pants on, but other than that, it was pretty cool.
I just took it as he was, like you said, like a forest child.
Yeah.
So,
Well, even when he had armor
that's
on, he
why.
had no pants. I'm wearing this long shirt. It reminded me of like Frodo or Bilbo getting that mithril shirt. I'm like, all right, dog, I see what you're doing. Because, I mean, you can say whatever you want about what inspired this. There's definitely Lord of the Rings elements in there. Jack has
Mhm.
got an Aragorn kind of mindset. Go find this special armor somewhere. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from? Like, there's a lot of things I want to be explained in this, going back to our 10 for story. But I did like it effects wise. I did like the shots, those cool shots of the unicorns frolicking, and like the shots they added, which I was really glad they added them, of them cutting the unicorns, the alicorn off, like cutting the horn off.
Yeah.
I like that. That's not in the British version or the director's cut. It's implied. But I thought it's important to see it being removed and then being put back. Like you see, it's kind of a little note that look what humanity did, and then look at nature fix itself, because it's the gump that puts it back on, not Jack or
Mhm.
Lily, which I thought was interesting and a good little story. You know, you have the goblins that cut it off, the fairies that put it back, and it's about nature taking care of itself, and then we should just leave
Yeah.
that ish alone. But yeah, I love this. The lighting's great. It's got good camera shots. Like you said, the showing of the eyes kind of glowing on Una is really neat when you see her like, this is our secret. And then that really cool
Yeah.
shot of her face turned into Lily as she like uses fairy magic on him. And he's like, no. And then the gump's like, God, your morals just got us stuck in here forever. Like the fairies are like, why don't you just kiss her, Chase? I really liked it. I thought it's some great camera movement, some good like you said, that shot with him coming down with his horns down, like using his body as a weapon, is very cool and scary,
Yeah.
and just a cool shot. Or when like Blix has the wand and he's like, I'm in charge now, and the goblins try to take over, and they're like, you messed up, dog. And that one just throws the one in the hole. It's like, what's wrong with
Oh.
y'all? This dude's like 10 foot tall from horn to hoof, and you're like, whatever, we're in charge now. Oh, so what do you think on this one? I mean, I'm not
I mean,
opposed
I'd
to a
give it
25.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't mind giving this a 25.
No, I'm with it. I think it's cool. It looks great. Like I said, great lighting. It's definitely pleasing to the eye. It looks like a fantasy film. You know, you feel like it's a fairy tale. It doesn't feel like real world. The camera, and of course, it's in the 80s, so it was shot on film. But even like with the HD remasters, it doesn't look modern, which I like. I like the look of an 80s movie, of a film movie, right? I want to feel like
Mhm.
I'm in a film, and you do feel like you're there. The lighting is great. I like when it goes. The moment she touches the unicorn, there's like a subtle shift in the light where it gets darker, and then it rapidly gets darker. And that's just cool. That it's just, if you're not paying attention, you don't notice these little subtle things. Because like as she's walking towards it, the light is getting dimmer, and the moment she touches it, there's like a subtle but distinct shift in the light,
Yeah.
and the whole world has shifted. And they do the same thing the moment they put that back on, right? So it's like, oh, okay, and the light starts to come back and the sun's rising, you know, and it's just a really cool effect how they used it, which I really liked. All right, going on to Jenny's favorite category here, the sound element. The sound represents an overall tone of the film. The soundtrack, as well as the score, keeps the audience engaged with the setting, characters, location, and narrative of the piece. So what do you think? What do you think, Doug? I know you're big on sound.
I like the juxtaposition between the light and the darkness, like the scoring and the just the sounds in general between the two.
Yeah.
Because they all sound different. The use of like, I don't know, when they do like little sounds of like little, almost like a small bell.
Yeah.
On times with the fairies and the score of the movie, obviously I love, but I love the Tangerine Dream soundtrack. I liked it better than when I watched the other version. Like I thought to me is what I grew up with also too. So I'm gonna be a little biased, but I was at the end when that song comes on, "Loved by the Sun," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Is that Yes?"
Yeah.
And Johnny was like, "No," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And he was like, "No, it says it's Tangerine Dream." And I was like, "But that's the lead singer. It has to be."
Yeah. It is the lead singer of
So,
Yes with Tangerine Dream.
yeah, it is. And I was like, "I told you." I was like, "'Cause I love Yes." So, when I, like, realized who it was, I was really excited, but I
Says
love
so
that
much
song,
about you.
so
So much about you that you love Yes.
Shut shut up. Why?
Because they're terrible.
They're not terrible. That's your opinion,
I'm judging
sir.
McJudgerson right now. I'm sorry. Apologize.
You are being judgy.
Apologize. I don't apologize.
I don't listen to the
apologize.
same kind of music as you do, sir.
Hey, I like 80s music. I just don't like Yes.
First of all, and I also have been told by Amanda McGee, and I hope she's listening to this episode, but when she told me that if you want to know what Jenny's music she likes, if it's played at Lilith Fair, she likes it. I'm like, that is hateful.
But
Is
true.
what that is.
But it's 100% true, dog.
I like indie music and alternative and some
That's what they play
metal.
at Lilith Fair, bud.
I don't care, but don't be hateful about
no one's
it.
being hateful. It's not hateful to call it the truth, friend.
You all are so hateful.
Oh, now get your feelings hurt.
You know what? I just like good music, so kiss my butt. So, anyways, I really liked the sound and the scoring and all the different sound elements that they imply and incorporated into this film. I would score this high. But if you don't like 80s music, then you probably wouldn't score this high.
I would like to have seen it played not so much on synth, but with some actual instruments. I think that would have made a good juxtaposition of the two. Because I don't hate the original soundtrack. I've never actually seen it in the movie. I watched clips of it just to kind of get like the differences. I watched a couple of YouTube videos showing the differences. And I do like that there were some songs that Lily sung that had a very fairy tale Disney vibe to it. All the princesses sing, and there would have been some of the kind of added to her character a little bit. It kind of tells a story some. But I also like 80s synth music. I mean, you're over here hating, but I also really like 80s music. So, and it is our version. And
I'm over here hating.
You was just like, if you don't like 80s music, I do like 80s music.
I didn't say you. I was talking to whoever
Yes.
was listening. First of all,
Tangerine Dream did a good
were
job.
hating on me for liking Yes. So
it's well deserved.
No, it wasn't, because they're really good.
Sure, Doc. Sure. Whatever you say. Anyway, I'm messing with you.
We can't be friends anymore.
Oh, I knew it was coming. Knew it. Anyway, I like the soundtrack. I wish there's a couple parts where the synth is a little too apparent. I think I wish they kind of added some real instrumentation. Otherwise, it's really good. I think 80s has like the best time in film history for soundtracks and music anyway. I'm very much an 80s kid, so I'm very much about this. So I liked it. It was a very good score, very good approach to what the movie itself was. And it scores high for me, as you try not to let me get to. But just so everyone knows, Jerry Goldsmith does the original soundtrack for the British director's cut. Ridley Scott has gone on to say that he prefers the Goldsmith version. So is Tom Cruise. Everyone in the movie prefers the Jerry Goldsmith version, it's interesting that he even came back to work with Ridley Scott, to be honest, because Goldsmith, he also did Alien, but the studio changed so much and rearranged so much that it's not even his original score. So it's lucky he came back, to be honest. But some of the fairy tale vibe he has fits nice, I think. It was good. I just wish they'd kind of found a weird, or not weird, but a good mix of the two, I think. Because that dude has done a ton of stuff. Jerry Goldsmith has done so many things. From the 50s, he started in the 50s doing TV shows. Like he's done episodes of The Twilight Zone, Perry Mason. He's done like the Thriller TV series from the 60s. So many things. In the 70s, like late 70s, he did Alien. He did the original Star Trek, the motion picture. The Boys from Brazil, which he gets a lot of props for that one. He did Damien Omen 2, which is interesting. It's strange. And he did The Omen 2 and Logan's Run. I mean, my man did a lot of really big soundtracks. So I think we probably could have given him his go. And I don't know. Had we grown up with it, I'm not sure if we would think anything different versus hearing the other one. Because look at these soundtracks he's done. I'm just going to read you a couple and you'll be like, dang, I've liked all this dude's music. The Omen 3, right? But then he also did Poltergeist, The Secret of Nymph, First Blood, Psycho 2, Twilight Zone the movie, Gremlins. He did the original Supergirl. He did Rambo First Blood Part 2. He did The Explorers, which is Poltergeist 2, Hoosier, Star Trek The Next Generation. He did the whole theme. Inner Space, Lionheart, Rambo 3. He's done all these movies. Warlock. Like, this my man was crazy. And that was just in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
He did Total Recall, Gremlins 2, did some James Bond movies, like from... No, never mind. I read that wrong. That's The Russian House, not From Russia with Love. Mom and Dad Saved the World. I love that movie. Basic Instinct, Gladiator. He's done a lot of stuff. And I would like to have... I think if we had not grown up with the Tangerine Dream version, we might have a different view.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean...
I'm with you. I like it.
I just like this version better. I watched the other version. I just don't like it.
Well, no, but
I remember distinctly, like, why? What is wrong with this? Like, that was my main question.
But a lot
because
of times,
you said the stuff that they had added is stuff that I really enjoyed, and then it wasn't in that other version. So to me, that was not my legend that I liked.
Well, it's not. Yeah, the one we always grew up with was the U.S. version with Tangerine Dream playing their little synths and it has cool sounds. Not the best all the way around. I'm thinking like a 20 for soundtrack.
That's fine
because it's good. I like it. I like 80 soundtracks on and around. I just I'd like to hear it, watch it again now with the original one to see as an adult and comparatively, and try not to have nostalgia attached to it because it is our legend. We do like it, and I think it does fit the film better in certain places. But then there's other places that I think having a nice mix of the two would fit better. I'd like to see a fan go in and like throw it all together in one big like. I ain't got time to edit that together. But it'd been cool to see it all edited all together with both soundtracks kind of playing in different parts, you know. Different scenes would be cool, orchestral music. Like Lily's Dance in the British version, I think when I watched that clip, I liked it better with the music that Jerry Goldsmith played over that weird synth pop song. It was kind of cool to have like that almost ballroom kind of vibe. It just kind of fit with what was going on, which I liked. And I think that there's a place for both. So yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you. I don't think the whole movie needed to have just that.
No, I agree. I think it's in hearing them both. It would be cool to hear them mixed together, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that puts us at what? 70, 80? It's got a solid 80. Yeah, 80. Legend gets an 80.
Sweet.
It's not too bad, right?
No.
Is that like a B?
Yes, it's a B.
Yeah.
It's a low B.
Low B. It's the lowest B you can get, right?
B minus.
To be honest, way to go, Legend. B minus. All right, dude. Well, cool. There you go, guys. Legend gets a B. Not exactly horror, but some great horror elements, some great effects work, I think. Some of the best in cinematic history, really. I think the goblins look awesome. I think Tim Curry is amazing in this role. Yeah, hands down.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a lot of horror elements in it, and that's why I thought it would be cool to use.
Yeah, and it also kind of hits on our fear of the dark and our fear of the unknown and wilderness and all that jazz. And I think they did a really good job.
And it's a cool way to get your kids into horror too, because it's fantasy horror to me, and it's like it's PG, so it's like you're not gonna get a lot of like unnecessary things your kids can't watch.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's only like a couple little scenes of them kissing. There's some implications, you know, but like,
yeah,
In the original cut, they don't even kiss to the very end. Like that kiss you see early on is the original cut played in reverse. Like the end kiss where he kisses her and she sets up, that kiss at the beginning where he kisses her and she lays down, it's the exact same scene. They just cut it in reverse. So it's, it's nothing like that. It's not a ton of violence. You don't see a lot of blood or nothing. There's some fighting. It's very fantasy movie, very fairy tale, has definitely some horror elements, deals with our fear of the unknown, the fear of the dark, the battle between light and good. You don't get a lot of gore, which is fine. You don't need that necessarily to be scary, right? And like you said, like Big D running at you, it's pretty frightening when you're looking at, man, this makeup looks so good. And then all of a sudden, there's 3-foot horns running at me right now. It's it, you know what I mean? And it's really cool. The giants were cool looking. I liked all of it, man. It was a great film.
Yeah, me too.
Anything you want to add, friend?
No. If you haven't seen it, go watch it because it's a classic. It's great.
We just told you all about it, but you definitely can rent it, just the US version from Amazon and Apple. I could not find the director's cut or the non-US version anywhere streaming in the US. I mean, if you have one of those VPNs where you can change where you live to Europe or something, maybe you'll find it on European Netflix. I couldn't even find it on YouTube. Like, it's just not here accessible to us in the States.
No, and I used to have the digital, or not digital. I used to have the hard copy of it, and I'm an idiot and got rid of all of my movies except for my Tim Burton movies. I still have those.
I kept some Star Wars and some big ones, but that's about it. But I didn't sell my movies; they were sold for me.
That sucks.
For sure. But no. Anyway, you can still purchase it. I think it's fairly cheap. It's like $14, I think, for the Blu-ray version. It's not expensive. If you really want to watch the director's cut, I may purchase it, honestly, just to have it and also to watch the director's cut and compare them. Because like I said, I do love this movie. I had some of the best makeup of any movie in the 80s. And for me, I love fantasy films. Legend, Willow, Labyrinth, those were all on a constant rotation at our house when we were kids. Me and my brother, between me and him, like he loved Labyrinth and loves Jim Henson. So that's all we really watched growing up was these and other horror movies our mom tried to give us. But these always were the ones in the rotation, right? This really good puppetry work, great makeup. It has all looked really cool. And that's kind of what has the foundation of my like. So there you go.
Yes.
All right, buddy. You want to tell them where they can find us?
So you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Horror in the Halls. You can also follow Jenny_Dreffuls on Instagram. You can email us at horrorinthehalls@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, guys, we'd love to touch base with you, connect, get some more people involved with the things we're doing coming up. Speaking of that, hope you guys are all reading along with us. We are going to review The Hellbound Heart this month. There may also be a giveaway where I give away a copy of The Hellbound Heart, just like I gave away a copy of our last book, What Moves the Dead, right? Is that what it's called? What Moves the Dead?
Yes. Yeah, which is a sequel. There's a sequel coming soon. I'm real excited about it.
Getting a sequel. Not sure how that's going to work, but I'm excited to read it as well because I really like that. Hellbound Heart, great read. It's a fast read, so definitely pick it up if you haven't read it yet. If you're waiting to possibly get a free copy, keep an eye out for next week.
Also,
there'll be a contest.
The audio book of it is, if you look it up, there's a Clive Barker version.
Oh, of him reading his own book? That'd be kind of cool. I like when that happens. I like when that happens. That's good. When authors read it, you really get like the tone they wanted. So, and he's got an interesting voice.
So I'm going to listen to that audiobook because I really want to hear it in his voice.
Where'd you find it?
On Audible.
Okay, so I'll get that as well. I've been reading the book, but I want to hear Clive Barker read it. So I know I've met him, so like I get his voice sound in my head. So like when I read it, I kind of hear it, but I'd like to hear him actually read his own characters. So that's what I will do as well.
Yeah,
I've read this book. It's a solid book. It's definitely not going to be as close to the Hellraiser show we did, but still good story, good all around. And we'll talk about that next week, guys. So yeah, that'll be our bell. We'll get out of here, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.